Well, hey, we've got people in here. If anybody wants to jump on video and audio or do a question in chat, please do so. Which Delaney just said in chat.
Yes. So
I'm a visitor, so I don't have anybody. So you all have a great day.
Well, Paula, thanks for visiting. You're welcome to stay.
I can.
Oh, we have
Liz Solberg's coming on. Heard of her before.
Oh, and Kim.
Hi, Liz.
Hello. I tried to figure this out.
Hi, Liz.
In Massachusetts.
Kim.
Hey.
Okay.
Liz, you have some tough questions for us?
My brain's not with you yet, so we'll work on it. What about the Confront the Climate Crisis group?
I'm sorry about the what?
Well, I understood that you all were doing a thing. Was there a Confront the Climate Crisis group going to talk also? Or have I missed that?
They're next. They're next
Okay.
on the stage at 2:30, I think.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking it was the reverse order. So no. This is the first time I have, in the history of reading the States Out, I have not been in attendance for the full thing. I'm just tuning in because we're visiting our daughter here in Boston. So we're just
long distance. Well, Liz, we'll put that in your record that you missed.
of course. Eager to hear about your thoughts about what the upcoming challenges are going to be in the legislature. There are always many.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth.
Yeah, well, I think we'll talk about that some in the last panel, but we're going to see a lot of the same things, Liz, that we've seen before from playing defense. And, Senator Alting's got a climate bill, which I assume we'll all be working for. And
well, in the resolution, when I read I don't know if they've changed since they originally came out, but when I read it, my reaction was, oh my gosh, what's in the bill? It was everything in the world with deadlines that were about 6 months out. So that didn't seem too likely. But the resolution seemed like a very reasonable wording. So I thought it might get a little further in the initial session, but we'll see.
Hey, Paula, I wanted to tell you how much I appreciated your presentation this morning.
Oh, well, thank you, Kim.
It was really excellent. And the whole presentation as far as timing got shifted and off. So I was just panicking a little bit because we were behind, but it all worked out just fine.
I never saw your messages because I had to switch to PowerPoint so I could see the slides. So
I know.
I really didn't know the time, and I usually think 2 minutes per slide, right? But evidently I went over that. But anyway, thank you very much.
It was great. I truly meant that I learned a lot from listening to you. And not only that, just such a good reminder for those of us that do this work. We think that we've got all the answers, and then, you go into a community and, we're so eager to share what we think the answers are that we're not listening to what the community needs. And that's always just such a good reminder for everybody to pay attention to. So anyway, I was very appreciative of your presentation this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, nice
Hi.
to be here. There was something I shared during Paula's talk. It probably didn't have that great of context, but it was a link to a way of organizing conversations called Sociocracy. I was just curious if anybody has heard of that on the call. It's a method that draws out the wisdom that's in the gathered circle and links circles with double links. So I just feel like, man, what if we could do that in Indiana to figure out who's doing what, who could share best practices, how can we not be bossy, letting the information come up from the people who know and connecting those hubs. Like, this is actually something I've been kind of studying how to do for the last year, but I obviously can't do it alone. So, yeah, there's this group out of Washington, D.C. that offers free webinars on it. And I could drop that link in chat if anybody wanted to go check it out themselves. And actually, one of their people is going to be a speaker at a December 7th Michigan City-based event called, what is it called? Something about biomimicry and the nature of creativity and nature, something like that. So I could share both of those links. I think those would be really cool. But we're actually going to have one of their people coming to Indiana. I think it's got a lot of promise.
Where do you live, Kathy?
I'm in Valparaiso, Indiana.
Valparaiso.
Yep, up here in Northwest Indiana. Nancy Moldenauer is my not too very far away neighbor. And Kim Ferraro used to be my very close neighbor. And I
ditched you. I ditched you, Kathy.
We're still Facebook friends, but it's not quite the same as knowing I could go knock on your door.
I know. I do miss having that presence, the actual physical presence. But I must say, if there's a silver lining to COVID, it's that we can do this now. We weren't doing that before, so I appreciate that.
Well, there's a question here from Lori. So please ask, Lori.
Oh, I'm here. Okay. Ooh, I always scare myself when I see myself. I had this discussion with one of my other CCL partners at Citizens Climate Lobby, and this was something that I've been mulling over for a very, very long time because I think it's a real legitimate concern. Right now, what we're facing, and I've noticed this seems to be lacking in so many of the presentations and seminars and organizations I've been involved with, is I feel like we have a lot of existential threats going on right now, and not the least of which is climate change, of course, and that's why I'm here today. But also, we're also what I consider to be in an unprecedented level of corruption in politics. And the thing that I think I'm really concerned about is how do we modify our advocacy to compensate for the urgency of what we're facing, coupled with those huge, almost insurmountable obstacles of politicians who, frankly, are paid off to do what they do. Anybody have any feedback for that, or is this a question I should pose later in the final question and answer session?
Well, I have a comment. You have to shine light on that corruption. If you play that game, then you're complicit. So there may be a hump to get over, but just if you look at what's going on the national level, and we have it here in Indiana as well. You just have to shine light on it. You have to counter the arguments. It's just an additional task.
I feel like we kind of skirt around it, where we say speak out and make your voices heard. And I think it's going to take more than that. One of the discussions I had was maybe we need to think about creating environmental pacts. I mean, maybe we need, in the short term, before we can cure that problem, which isn't going to happen overnight, in the short term, how do we mitigate the damages we're looking at and the urgency of what we're facing?
Well, environmental pact can never compete with an industry pact in terms of money or influence. You can also just partner with other organizations as well. But again, I believe that it may not be the short-term solution that you're looking for, but you have to build towards that, but you just have to shine light on it. It just has to be public.
Yeah. Paula, that's a good point, and you're right that we can't compete with the money that industry and business has going into PACs, but certainly engagement in the electoral process can be valuable if you can get even a couple friends elected by direct involvement in a campaign through volunteers and other support. But I'd also note that the influence of industry doesn't just come from their money; it comes from their engagement in all levels of government, and they've gotten very good at that. And one prime example that we're seeing the effects of in the Indiana General Assembly is the Indiana Builders Association has a very aggressive campaign to get their people elected to the state legislature. And the most notable outcome of that is this horrible wetlands bill that got passed this session. That was their bill. And they have people in positions of power in the House and the Indiana House and Senate, and very deliberately are working for that influence. So it's not just about money; it's about getting people elected and being engaged in local government and local organizations and state government. And people on the environmental side don't always do that or understand the importance of it. And it really needs to, collectively, we all need to be more engaged in that way. And there are some folks starting a new Indiana environmental PAC, and we can share the link for that somewhere, I think.
That'd be great. And on the flip side of that too, as far as like there's just the average person or environmentalist wanting to run for a position, or my understanding of that too is even on a local level here, that takes quite a bit of money. So you got to have people behind you, even if you're running as an individual or somebody with limited funds. You've got to find funding to be seen, to be heard, and to ultimately get elected. It's amazing the amount of money they're constantly asking for at every level. I get requests from Indiana Democrats all the time. So it makes me, I don't personally want to run, but I know other people that do. And I just don't know how do you even begin to be heard or seen, even on a local level.
Lori, if I could chime in, I don't know if you and I have met, but nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Via the interwebs. I know that sometimes, well, not sometimes, most of the time, it's very easy to feel like what we're doing isn't making a difference because the other side is so effective and powerful and has all the resources, and all of the things that you said are very true. And so I'm not diminishing that in any way. And I'll also just tell you a personal story that I went to law school to do public interest environmental law. So I have, kind of my dream job. But in the beginning, I very idealistically thought, once I get a JD, I'm just going to be able to sue the bastards. I'm going to be able to make a difference. I mean, it's all, like I'm going to really be able to, hit it. And, so to some extent, sure, we've had some legal wins, but they're little wins. And it seems like the other side is just always, always getting the big systemic things go their way. And so I went through a period of time where I was very discouraged by this. Kind of sounds to me like you're at that point too. And as we all get there, and I had a conversation with a guy named Dr. John Eichard, who, if you have not ever heard of him, he's a true visionary in the sustainable ag space. If you Google him, he's got his own website. He's an author. He's done, incredible work. Anyway, he pointed out to me that the idea of one person being able to solve the whole thing misses the point, right? Because one person can't solve the whole thing. But if everybody did the one little thing that they're good at,
Yeah.
the one little piece that they bring to, you know, I'm a lawyer, Kathy's a communications expert, Tim's just a brilliant everything and he knows everything. Paula's great at, she knows how to do grassroots organizing and EJ communities. Liz, she is leading League of Women Voters to get, women involved in the vote, on and on and on. Nancy Moldenauer up in Northwest Indiana doing green drinks. My point is that everybody, if we all are doing our own little piece collectively, that does make a difference. And I think we can see that on so many levels. For example, with climate change, look at children, kids, teenagers are for the first time organizing and coming together. And that's because every one little person. So I'm not trying to be like, sound naive or anything. I'm not diminishing what you're saying, but I don't want you to lose hope because there's a lot to be hopeful about.
Yeah, I can't say I've lost hope, but I do feel like sometimes so many people that I speak to, so many presentations that I hear, there seems to be, I don't know. And I'm not talking about anger or passion or wanting to get out there and argue or create a ruckus. I'm just talking about a sense of not understanding what we're really dealing with. I mean, we're really dealing with some dark forces, and I'm not trying to get in. I'm not into conspiracy theories.
No, we are
like that. But we've got dark forces that dark money. We've got lots of stuff we're fighting, and I really worry about everything coming together for some very bleak, dark times. Not the least of which could be people in the street shooting each other over stuff. It's just, and that's what's happening, and people are getting away with it, and so I'm not going to run on and on, but I just wish there was more of a sense of the reality, not with the emotion and the wanting to fight or hurt people or get angry, but just this is the way that it is. It's like in the Indiana Dunes presentation, she was wonderful. It was wonderful, but there was a section about a breakdown of communication over that spill that went into the waterway. There wasn't a breakdown of communication. They simply didn't. You do not break down communication over something like that. They simply didn't tell people. So why is it not okay for us to say it wasn't communicated? It doesn't matter what the excuse is as to why. It just simply wasn't done, and there's no excuse for it. So I feel like our side is a little too gentle, where the other side is, we don't care, we'll lie, we'll do whatever. And I think that sometimes we need to just be a little bit more forceful and say, you didn't do it. I don't care what you try to say, you simply didn't do it. Or this is what you did and this is what you said you didn't do. There's a lack of that strength on our side that concerns me a lot. So
Lori,
I'm monopolizing this. I apologize.
Lori, I just wanted to say that you hit upon a very discouraging problem, and that's the amount of disinformation there is in our media, our social media, everywhere in this country. And that is very difficult to combat. I worked in public health my entire paid career. And, I just wanted to stand up and scream during COVID.
I bet.
Because everything that happened did not have to fall that way.
Nope.
Even if we were under-resourced, if we just followed some basic principles that everyone adhered to. And, being old enough to remember when polio vaccine came out and people lined up to get their kids vaccinated or to get vaccinated. We have seemed to have lost somehow the public will to look at the common good. And I think that's a lot of what's going on. And it's very difficult to confront. And the only way that I can say is you have to take it one person at a time and just very kind of, sometimes if you engage a person, it only encourages them. And you can say, well, I know that that's the way you feel, but I disagree. And I don't think that we can talk about this right now, and move on to someone else who's more amenable. But it is a huge problem.
It is, yeah.
And I feel your pain.
You were referring to speaking truth to power about the need for people to tell it like it is when it comes to all the environmental problems. And I think the folks at HEC are very strong on that and happy to talk more about that. Paula and Kim, do that so well in their work. But we have another question from Gary, which I think is a good question about positioning environmentalism as neither liberal nor conservative, and which it isn't. But I think one way you do that, and I'd like to hear what other people say too, is you don't talk about it being something that's liberal conservative. You speak to people's values and aspirations, and people have so many common values and aspirations, like family and the well-being of their children's health, the hope that they'll have a good place to live and a good job in the future, and clean water and clean air to breathe. So that's, I think, the messaging that we don't always do nearly as well as we should, is not get into the political labels, but get into what people really care about, human values and concerns. And there's a lot of commonality there. And a lot of the folks around Indiana who call us up or email us for help are conservative people, but they're concerned about their family or their neighborhood or their community, and they turn to us for help because they're not getting it elsewhere. So.
If I could say,
oh no, go ahead, Nancy.
Yeah, if I could say something here. I remember a few years ago, Heck actually had speaker here from the evangelical evangelical something movement. I can never remember what their name is. And also since then, a ultra-right conservative student movement has come up at the college level, and they're committed to stewardship of our earth. So we certainly have, I believe, Evangelical Environmental Network. Thank you, Marianne. We certainly have many more allies than we believe we have. And I try to drop into their meetings every so often and participate when they have film viewings and things like that. So I think that's something that we can do. It's always go to their space if you are expecting to engage in conversation with them and to form, networking that's going to work for all of us. When they have petitions up that they're asking people to sign for things that I totally believe in, I'll sign those, regardless of them being a conservative group or not. So I think that's something to definitely keep in mind. And I always say it's about health, well-being, and quality of life. Those are three things that absolutely every single human being on this planet can agree with and get around and support.
And those are not liberal or conservative concepts. They're human concepts. So
exactly. I dropped a little thing in there for my friend Deb Chubb, who launched 25 Women for 2020 last year. And Ms. Bauer was with us yesterday, who's the state representative from the South Bend Granger area. And she gave Deb and 25 Women for 2020 a big shout out. She said they provided her with the support and the platform that helped her get elected. That organization has evolved into Indiana Women's Action Network. I would highly recommend liking their Facebook page, becoming involved with them. They are committed to getting as many women as possible elected to the Indiana legislature this coming election. And that's what it's really going to take for us, is to get those people that we trust, that we know have the same values as we have. And women really are committed to family, to community, to the environment. They really are. So shout out for Indiana Women's Action Network.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good information and advice, Nancy. Yeah. I would also say, just there are different forums for different types of communication. I mean, to the point about speaking truth to power and calling them out, that's kind of what lawsuits do, right? And that's where we get to be in their face and calling them out. And then there are other times where we need to be or try to be collaborative so that we don't burn a communication bridge. And so I just think today, to your point, Lori, I think what you're wanting to hear is more of the rise up from the speakers. What are we going to do about this? As opposed to the more calm, objective way that things are being presented, that really recognizes the true gravity of the situation that we're in. You feel like that's missing.
Oftentimes I do. Yeah. I just feel like we're playing the game like we normally play it, but the rules have changed and the players have changed. And we need to, unfortunately, modify what we do. Not that we have to betray who we are as decent people, but we've got to find a way to manage the new challenge. So I just don't know if we do enough of it. I see a lot of people on my side. They just stick their head in the sand. It's so overwhelming, and I get it. So I think that's.
I'll invite you to one of our next court battles. Maybe you'll have.
I would love that. My husband is an attorney, and he would love it too. Yeah.
Also, you have to bear in mind culture. So the Midwest is not a place where people really tell you honestly what they're thinking. So you have to know that, right? And until they trust you, and even when people trust you, they don't want to offend you, so they may not really be honest with you in that conversation, that communication. And I can contrast that with like people on the East Coast. They let you know how they feel immediately, and then it's next. So I wouldn't despair. As it's been said earlier, there's probably more work going on than what you see at the surface.
And I'm sure, I believe that. Truly, I do. So.
But in New Jersey, which is a state that is way ahead on environmental justice protections, people protest in Newark or Atlantic City. They take to the streets. It's really hard to see that here. For it to be sustained, right? You may have one day where people gather, but on the East Coast, especially for environmental issues, you will see people out there every day.
It's time for us to move back to the stage. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.